Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the massive screen that showed empty space. But this was not just any empty space. This was the edge of the Forbidden Zone, the place where no alien ship had gone for 300 years. The warning beacons floated in the darkness like red stars. Each one sent out the same message in every known language. Stay away. Do not enter human space. This is for your own safety. Kyung-ho had been watching this border for 20 years. His father watched it before him. His grandfather, too. 3. Generations of his family had done this job, and nothing had ever happened. The humans stayed quiet. The galaxy stayed safe. But today felt different. "Sir," called Lieutenant Da-eun from her station, "I'm getting some strange readings." Kyung-ho walked over to her console. The numbers on the screen made no sense. "What am I looking at?" "Energy signatures from inside the human zone," Da-eun said. "Very faint, but they're there. I've never seen anything like this before." Kyung-ho frowned. The humans had been silent for so long that most people forgot they existed. Young aliens grew up thinking the Sol system was just empty space that no one could visit. On the other side of the galaxy, War Master Jin Woo was having a very different conversation. He sat in his war room, surrounded by maps of star systems and lists of resources. His empire was growing fast and they needed more materials. "The numbers don't lie," said his advisor, General Haewon. "We need those gas giants. Our mining operations can't keep up with demand." Jin Woo pointed at the map. "Then why aren't we taking them? That system has been empty for centuries." "Because of the old stories," Haewon said carefully. "The warnings about humans." Jin Woo laughed. "Stories. Fairy tales to scare children. Show me proof that humans are dangerous." General Haewon pulled up old files on his tablet. 300 years ago, the Zephyrian Empire had the strongest fleet in the galaxy. 10,000 ships, advanced weapons. They tried to take the human system. And 6 weeks later, their empire was gone. Every ship destroyed. Every colony abandoned. Jin Woo waved his hand. "Luck. Maybe the humans had help. Maybe the Zephyrians were not as strong as they claimed." But General Haewon had read the real reports. He knew what the few survivors had said. The humans had taken Zephyrian technology and made it better. Much better. They had copied weapons and improved them in days. They had studied ship designs and built faster vessels in weeks. The scariest part was how fast humans learned. Give them a simple laser and they would hand you back a weapon that could cut through any armor. Show them a basic engine and they would build one that could cross the galaxy in hours. The humans asked for only one thing, Haewon said quietly. To be left alone. "And everyone just agreed?" Jin Woo asked. "Everyone who was smart enough to survive." But Jin Woo was young and ambitious. He had built his empire from nothing. He had never lost a battle. The idea that some primitive species could threaten him seemed impossible. On a science station near the border, Dr. Minho was studying old data files. He had spent his whole career trying to understand humans. The problem was that there was not much to study. After the first contact disaster, humans had sealed themselves away. No trade, no communication, no visits. The only information came from those first few months of contact, and that information was terrifying. Dr. Minho read through the reports again. Human learning speed was beyond anything known to science. They could look at alien technology and understand it completely in hours. They could take apart a device and rebuild it better than the original creators. But that was not the scariest part. The scariest part was their creativity. Aliens used technology for its intended purpose. Humans use technology for everything except its intended purpose. They turned communication devices into weapons. They turned mining tools into ship engines. They turned medical equipment into force fields. They think differently, Dr. Minho wrote in his notes. Where we see limitations, they see possibilities. Back on Kyung-ho's ship, the strange readings were getting stronger. Lieutenant Da-eun had called in 3 other technicians to check her equipment. All of them confirmed the same thing. Something was happening inside human space. Should we report this? Da-eun asked. Kyung-ho thought carefully. False alarms about humans made people panic, but ignoring real warnings could be much worse. Send a message to headquarters, he decided. Tell them we have unusual activity in the Forbidden Zone. The message traveled across the galaxy through the communication network. Within hours, it reached the desk of Director Hyojin, the head of Galactic Security. Hyojin had been hoping to retire soon. She was tired of dealing with trade disputes and border conflicts. The human zone had been quiet her entire career. She had hoped it would stay that way, but as she read Kyung-ho's report, she felt a cold fear in her chest. She remembered her grandmother's stories about the old days, about the time when humans first appeared in the galaxy and everything changed. Meanwhile, Jinwoo was making his decision. His advisors had argued for hours, but his mind was made up. His empire needed resources, and that system had exactly what they needed. Prepare a scout probe, he ordered. Something small and fast, we'll just take a quick look. Sir, General Haewon said one last time, I really think we should reconsider. The decision is made, Jinwoo said firmly. What's the worst that could happen? It was a question that many people throughout history had asked. It was also a question that usually had very bad answers. The probe was launched 3 days later. It was a small, advanced ship with the best sensors money could buy. It would cross into human space, take some pictures, and come back with information. Simple and safe. Or so they thought. As the probe crossed the invisible line that marked the edge of human territory, every warning beacon in the area activated at once. Red lights flashed. Alarms sounded. Emergency messages flooded the communication networks. For the first time in 300 years, someone had entered human space. On his ship at the border, Admiral Kyung-ho watched his screens in horror as alerts filled every display. The probe had crossed the line. The rule had been broken. Now they would find out if the old stories were true. The probe moved through space like a silver needle, cutting through the darkness toward the human system. War Master Jin-woo watched its progress from his command center, feeling proud of his bold decision. His advisors sat quietly around the table, but he could feel their worry. First images coming in, announced the technician at the sensor station. The probe has reached the outer edge of the system. Jin-woo leaned forward. Show me. The main screen lit up with pictures from the probe's cameras. At first, everything looked normal. There was the sun that humans called Sol, burning bright in the center. There were planets orbiting around it just like in any other system. But something was wrong with the picture. Are those structures? Asked General Haewon, pointing at the screen. The technician adjusted the controls, trying to get a clearer image. What they saw made everyone in the room go silent. The planets were not planets anymore. They were covered in metal. Huge structures rose from their surfaces, reaching up into space like giant fingers. Some of these structures were bigger than cities. Some were bigger than mountains. How is that possible? Jin-woo whispered. But that was not the strangest part. Around each planet, there were rings of objects floating in space. At first, they looked like space stations. But as the probe got closer, the truth became clear. They were ships. Thousands and thousands of ships, each one the size of a small moon. Sir, the technician said, his voice shaking, I'm reading energy signatures from those ships. The power levels are impossible. Jin-woo stood up from his chair. What do you mean impossible? I mean our computers can't measure them, the numbers are too big. Across the galaxy, other people were starting to notice that something was happening. On her science vessel, Captain Da-eun was monitoring the deep space sensors when her equipment started going crazy. What is that? She asked her assistant, pointing at the energy readings on her screen. The assistant checked his instruments twice. It's coming from the Sol system, some kind of massive power surge. Da-eun had studied the old reports about humans. She knew that their technology was supposed to be dangerous. But these readings were beyond anything she had ever imagined. Send a message to all ships in this sector, she ordered. Tell them to stay away from human space. Something big is happening. At Galactic Security Headquarters, Director Hyojin was having the worst day of her career. Emergency reports were flooding in from all over the galaxy. Every sensor station was detecting the same thing: enormous energy signatures coming from the human system. Dr. Minho burst into her office without knocking. "You need to see this," he said, holding up his tablet. "I'm a little busy right now," Heejin said, trying to deal with the dozens of messages on her desk. "This can't wait." Dr. Minho put his tablet on her desk. "I've been analyzing the energy readings. Do you know what humans have been doing for 300 years? Hyejin looked at the numbers on his screen. They made no sense to her. Building things? Not just building. Improving, learning, growing. Dr. Minho's voice was full of fear. "These power readings suggest that humans have advanced beyond anything we can understand." "How far beyond?" "Remember the old stories about humans copying our technology? I think they didn't just copy it, I think they perfected it. Back in the human system, Jinwoo's probe was getting closer to the inner planets. The pictures it sent back became more and more impossible to believe. The planet called Earth was not blue and green anymore. It was covered in structures that seemed to bend space around them. The probe's cameras could not focus properly on these buildings. They seemed to exist in more dimensions than the cameras could see. "Sir," the technician said, "I'm losing contact with the probe." "What do you mean, losing contact?" "The signal is strange. It's like the probe is moving away from us but also toward us at the same time." Jinwoo did not understand what that meant, but he did not like how it sounded. On the planet Earth, in a room that existed in 7 dimensions but looked like a simple office, Admiral Dong Jin was having tea when his assistant brought him news. "Sir, we have a visitor." Dong Jin was a calm man who had lived through many strange things, but he had not expected visitors. Humans had been alone for a long time, and they had grown used to the quiet. "What kind of visitor?" "A probe. Alien design. It's trying to scan our outer defenses." Dongjin set down his teacup. After 300 years of peace, someone had finally decided to disturb them. He was not angry, just curious. The galaxy had left them alone for so long that he had wondered if anyone still remembered they existed. Where did it come from? The hegemony of Krell, a young empire on the outer rim. Dongjin nodded. "Ah, someone who doesn't know the old stories." He stood up and walked to his window. Outside, he could see the city that had once been called New York. But it was not the same city that existed 300 years ago. This city existed in multiple timelines at once. Its buildings reached into parallel dimensions. Its people could walk through space and time like other species walked through parks. "Should we destroy the probe?" his assistant asked. "No," Dongjin said thoughtfully. "Let's talk to them first. It's been a long time since we had neighbors." Back on Jinwoo's ship, something impossible happened. The probe, which had been millions of miles away, suddenly appeared right next to their vessel. Not flew back, not traveled back, just appeared, as if space had folded to bring it home. But it was not the same probe that they had sent. It looked similar, but it was different, better. The metal was smoother. The engines were more advanced. Someone had improved it. "How did it get here so fast?" General Haewon asked. Before anyone could answer, every screen in the command center lit up with the same image. It was a human face, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. She looked completely normal, which somehow made everything more frightening. "Hello," the woman said in perfect Krelian language. "My name is Commander Nara of the Terran Space Fleet. We received your probe. Thank you for the gift." Jinwoo found his voice. "Gift?" "Your probe was very educational. We learned a lot about your technology. We made some improvements and sent it back." Commander Nara's smile got wider. "We hope you don't mind." General Haewon was staring at the returned probe on his sensor screen. "Sir," he whispered to Jinwoo, "that probe is now 3 times more powerful than when we sent it." Commander Nara continued talking as if she could hear their conversation. "We've been wondering what the galaxy has been up to while we were away. It's been very quiet out here." "Away?" Jinwoo managed to ask. "Oh yes. We've been busy exploring other places, other times, other possibilities." Nara tilted her head. But your probe reminded us that we have neighbors. We should visit more often. The communication ended, leaving Jinwoo's command center in complete silence. Everyone stared at the screens, trying to understand what had just happened. Finally, General Haewon spoke. "Sir, I think we need to leave. Now." But it was already too late. On the long-range sensors, they could see ships coming out of the human system. Ships that moved faster than light without using FTL drives. Ships that seemed to bend space around them like water. The humans were no longer hiding, and they were coming to visit. Dr. Minho ran through the corridors of Galactic Security Headquarters, his tablet clutched in his shaking hands. He had spent the last 6 hours analyzing every piece of data they had about humans, and what he found terrified him. Director Hae-jin was in the emergency meeting room when he burst in. Around the table sat the most important leaders in the galaxy. They all looked worried and confused. "You have to listen to me," Dr. Minho said, breathing hard. "I know what we're dealing with. Sit down and explain," Hae-jin ordered. Dr. Minho activated his tablet and holographic images filled the room. They showed graphs, charts, and old videos from 300 years ago. When humans first met aliens, everyone thought they were primitive, he began. But that was wrong. Humans are not primitive, they are adaptive. The images changed to show human ships from the old days. Simple metal boxes with basic engines. This is what human ships looked like after 1 week of contact with alien technology. The image changed again. Now the ships were sleeker, faster, more advanced. This is what they looked like after 1 month. Another change. The ships now looked completely different with designs that seemed impossible. And this is what they looked like after 6 weeks. The room was silent. Everyone stared at the progression of images. In 6 weeks, humans went from metal boxes to ships that could destroy entire fleets, Dr. Minho continued. But that's not the scary part. The scary part is that they never stopped improving. He pulled up more data. Every piece of alien technology that humans saw, they made better. Faster engines became even faster. Strong weapons became even stronger. Advanced computers became even more advanced. Council member Taemin, an old alien who had lived through the human wars, spoke quietly. "We thought the quarantine would contain them." "No," Dr. Minho said. "We gave them time to grow, 300 years of time." As he spoke, reports were coming in from all over the galaxy. Human ships had been spotted in dozens of systems, not attacking, just appearing, watching, waiting. Captain Da-Yun was on her science vessel when one of these ships appeared next to her. She was studying star formations when her sensors went crazy. "Captain," her assistant called out. "We have a visitor." Da-Yun looked at her screens and saw something impossible. The ship next to them was huge, bigger than anything she had ever seen. But it was not just big. It was beautiful. Its hull seemed to be made of liquid metal that flowed like water. Lights danced across its surface in patterns that made her eyes hurt to look at. "Are they scanning us?" she asked. "I don't know. My instruments can't figure out what they're doing." Then a voice came through their communication system. It was warm and friendly, like someone talking to an old friend. "Hello, there. Sorry to disturb you. My name is Captain Subin of the exploration vessel Harmony. We're just taking a look around." Da-Yun found her voice. "You're human?" "That's right. We've been away for a while. The galaxy looks different than we remembered." "Away where?" There was a pause. "Oh, here and there, different places, different times, different possibilities." Da-Yun did not understand what that meant, but something about the way Captain Subin said it made her feel very small. Meanwhile, at the edge of human space, Admiral Kyung-ho was watching the biggest fleet movement he had ever seen. Human ships were leaving their system in numbers that his computers could not count. They moved in formation, but not like any formation he recognized. Some ships flew forward, others flew backward. Some moved up and down at the same time. A few seemed to be flying in directions that did not exist. "Sir," Lieutenant Da-Yun said, "I think some of those ships are traveling through time." "What makes you think that?" "Well, I'm seeing the same ship in 3 different places, but the timestamps on my sensors show different times for each one. Admiral Kyung-ho felt a headache starting. That's impossible. So are ships the size of moons, but here we are. His command ship, War Master Jin-woo, was trying to understand what he had done. His advisors were running around like scared animals, trying to figure out how to deal with humans who could do impossible things. Can we fight them? He asked General Hae-won. With what? Our best weapons can crack planets. Their ships seem to exist in multiple dimensions. Can we run away? Where? They're already in half the systems in the galaxy. Jin-woo sat down heavily in his chair. How did they move so fast? General Hae-won pulled up a tactical display. According to our sensors, they didn't move fast. They moved instantly. One moment they were in their system, the next moment they were everywhere. That's impossible. Sir, with respect, we need to stop saying things are impossible. Humans seem to have made impossible things into normal things. The truth was even stranger than they realized. In the 300 years since the quarantine began, humans had not just improved alien technology, they had transcended it. They had learned to use science that other species had not discovered yet. Where aliens saw 3 dimensions, humans saw 12. Where aliens traveled through space, humans traveled through possibilities. Where aliens existed in one timeline, humans existed in all timelines at once. Dr. Minho was trying to explain this to the emergency council when another message came from the humans. This time, it was broadcast to every ship and station in the galaxy simultaneously. The face that appeared on every screen belonged to Admiral Dong-jin. He looked like a normal human man, middle-aged and calm, but his eyes held knowledge that seemed older than stars. People of the galaxy, he said in a voice that somehow spoke every language at once. We are the humans of Seoul. We have received a visitor after many years of quiet. This has reminded us that we are not alone. He paused, smiling gently. We know that our return may be concerning to some of you. We remember the old days, when our presence caused fear and confusion. We do not wish to repeat those mistakes. Another pause. But we also cannot return to isolation. The probe that visited us has shown us that the galaxy continues to grow and change. New empires rise. New species spread among the stars. This is good. Growth is always good. Admiral Dong-jin's expression became more serious. However, growth must be balanced with wisdom. The young empire that sent us the probe seems to have forgotten the old agreements. This concerns us. The message ended with coordinates and a simple request. We invite representatives from all galactic governments to meet with us at these coordinates in 7 days. We have much to discuss. The coordinates were for a system that had been empty space just hours ago. But when the galaxy's telescopes turned toward it, they found something new. The humans had built a space station there. It was beautiful and impossible, made of materials that seemed to be solid light. It existed in normal space but also seemed to extend into dimensions that could not be seen. Director Hae-jin looked around the room at the frightened faces of the galaxy's leaders. Well, she said quietly, I guess we're going to have that meeting. But first they had to figure out how to talk to beings who had transcended everything they thought they knew about science and reality. The humans were awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. War Master Jin-woo stared at the message from Admiral Dong-jin for the 5th time, trying to understand what the human meant by old agreements. His empire was young. They had never made any agreements with humans. Sir, General Hae-won said, carefully, perhaps we should consider attending this meeting. Meeting? Jin-woo slammed his fist on the table. They speak as if they own the galaxy. We are the hegemony of Krell. We bow to no one. Sir, they have ships that can appear anywhere instantly. They have technology we can't understand. Maybe we should— No! Jin-woo stood up. I will not be intimidated by ghost stories and fancy light shows. Prepare the fleet. General Hae-won felt ice in his stomach. Sir, what are you planning? If the humans want to talk, they can talk to our weapons. Ready all ships for battle. Sir, please reconsider. The old records are lies told by cowards. Jin-woo's eyes burned with pride and anger. We have 10,000 ships, the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. If these humans are so powerful, why have they been hiding for 300 years? General Haywan wanted to explain that the humans had not been hiding. They had been growing. But Jinwoo was beyond reason now. His pride would not let him back down. Within hours, the hegemony fleet was moving toward the meeting coordinates, 10,000 ships filled with weapons that could destroy planets. The pride of a young empire that had never known defeat. Jinwoo stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars stream past. He felt confident and strong. Whatever tricks the humans had, his fleet could handle them. He was wrong. As the HFY hegemony fleet approached the meeting point, Captain Subin, Jinwoo's best ship commander, began to notice strange readings on her sensors. "Sir," she called Jinwoo over the communication system, "I'm detecting some unusual energy signatures. Ahead, human ships? I'm not sure what they are." On her screens, Captain Subin could see objects that her computers could not properly identify. They were the size of large ships, but they seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Sometimes they appeared solid. Sometimes they looked like ghosts. Sometimes they seemed to be in several places at once. "Sir," her sensor officer said, "these readings don't make sense. These objects appear to be moving faster than light, but they're not using any kind of FTL drive we know about. How many of them are there?" The sensor officer checked his instruments twice. "That's the problem, sir. Sometimes I count 50, sometimes I count 500, sometimes I count 5,000. The number keeps changing." Jinwoo's voice came through the communication system, full of confidence. "Probably sensor ghosts. Human tricks to make us think they have more ships than they do. All units, prepare for battle." Captain Subin wanted to argue, but she knew Jinwoo would not listen. She ordered her crew to battle stations and hoped that their weapons would be enough. They were not enough. The battle began when Jinwoo gave the order to fire. 10,000 ships launched their most powerful weapons toward the flickering objects. Ahead, beams of energy that could melt mountains, missiles that could crack planets, the combined firepower of an entire empire. The weapons passed through the human ships like they were made of air. "What happened?" Jinwoo demanded. "Why didn't we hit them?" Before anyone could answer, the human ships changed. They stopped flickering, they became solid, and they were much, much bigger than anyone had expected. Each human ship was the size of a small moon. Their hulls seemed to be made of liquid metal that flowed and changed shape. Strange lights danced across their surfaces in patterns that made alien eyes water to look at. "Sir," Captain Subin said, her voice shaking, "I'm reading energy levels that should be impossible." "Impossible how?" "Sir, each one of those ships is generating more power than our entire fleet combined." Jinwoo felt the first cold touch of fear, but his pride pushed it away. "Fine. If they want to play games with big ships, we'll show them what real weapons can do. All ships, fire everything." The hegemony fleet unleashed destruction on a scale that had never been seen before. Every weapon fired at once. The space between the fleets filled with death and energy. It was enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. The human ships absorbed it all, not blocked it, not deflected it, absorbed it. The energy from the alien weapons flowed into the human ships like water flowing into a drain. The ships grew brighter and more powerful. "Sir," Captain Subin whispered, "they're using our weapons to charge their own systems." Then the humans fired back. What happened next could not really be called a battle. It was more like a lesson in the difference between advanced technology and transcended science. Human weapons did not destroy ships. They erased them, not into pieces or debris, but into nothing. One moment, a hegemony ship would be there, firing its weapons and trying to maneuver. The next moment, there would be empty space where it had been, as if it had never existed at all. Captain Subin watched, in horror, as the ships around her simply ceased to be. Her instruments could not detect any energy beams or missiles from the human vessels. The alien ships just stopped existing, one by one, in perfect silence. "Sir," her communications officer called out, "I'm losing contact with the fleet. Ship after ship is just gone. How many ships have we lost?" I can't tell, sir. They're not being destroyed. They're just not there anymore." On his flagship, Jinwoo was discovering what terror felt like. Half his fleet had vanished in the first minute of combat. The other half was disappearing just as fast. "Retreat!" he shouted. "All ships, retreat immediately!" But there was nowhere to retreat to. The human ships did not chase the fleeing aliens. They simply appeared wherever the alien ships tried to go. Space seemed to fold around them, bringing them instantly to wherever they were needed. Captain Subin tried to escape by jumping to FTL speed, but when her ship came out of hyperspace, a human vessel was waiting for her. It was as if the humans knew where she would go before she decided to go there. In 17 minutes, it was over. 10,000 ships had become one ship. Jinwoo's flagship drifted powerless in space, its weapons gone, its engines dead. The rest of the hegemony fleet had simply stopped existing, but the humans had left Jinwoo's ship intact on purpose. A voice came through the communication system. It was the same warm, friendly voice that Captain Daun had heard on her science vessel. "War Master Jinwoo, this is Commander Nara. Permission to come aboard?" Before Jinwoo could answer, she was there, not beamed over, not transported, just there, standing on his bridge as if she had always been there. She looked like a normal human woman in a simple uniform. No weapons, no armor, no sign of how she had crossed space instantly. Jinwoo and his crew backed away from her, but she smiled kindly and remained where she was. "Your probe was very educational," she said, as if they were having a normal conversation. "We learned a lot about your technology. Thank you for the lesson." What did you do to my fleet?" Jinwoo managed to ask. "We helped them find other places to be," Commander Nara said. "Don't worry. They still exist. Just not here. Not now." "Where are they?" "Scattered across different timelines. Different possibilities. They're safe, but they won't be bothering anyone for a while." Jinwoo's legs gave out and he fell into his command chair. "How?" "Practice," Commander Nara said simply. "We've had 300 years to learn new things. Time moves differently when you understand it properly." She walked over to look at his tactical displays, studying the information about his empire with curious interest. "You're very young," she observed. "Your empire, I mean, only a few hundred years old. No wonder you don't remember the old agreements." "What agreements?" "The simple one. Leave humans alone, and humans will leave you alone." Commander Nara turned to look at him with eyes that seemed older than stars. "You broke that agreement when you sent your probe. We needed resources," Jinwoo said weakly. "There are plenty of resources in the galaxy. Empty systems, uninhabited worlds, asteroid fields with no one around." Her voice remained kind, but there was something underneath it now, something that made Jinwoo's bones feel cold. "You chose to look for resources in the one place that was off limits." She studied his face for a moment, then smiled again. "But mistakes can be learning opportunities. You're going to help us teach the galaxy about the new rules." "New rules?" "The old agreement was that humans would stay hidden if everyone left us alone. That agreement is now void." Commander Nara's smile became wider. "We're not hiding anymore." Ambassador Tai Min had seen many strange things in his long diplomatic career, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. He stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the impossible structure that humans had built in empty space. The station looked like a crystal made of light and metal, spinning slowly in the void. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Parts of it seemed solid, while other parts looked like they were made of pure energy. Some sections appeared to exist in normal space, while others seemed to stretch into dimensions that hurt to think about. "Sir," his pilot said nervously, "we're receiving docking instructions, but they don't make sense." "What do you mean?" "They're telling us to dock at port 7, but I only see 3 docking ports." Taemin looked at the scanner. Readings. His pilot was right. The station only showed 3 ports on their sensors. But as their ship approached, more ports became visible. Not built, but revealed, as if they had always been there but hidden from view. "Just follow their instructions," Taemin said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. As their ship moved closer to the station, reality seemed to bend around them. The space near the station was not normal space. It was thicker somehow, like moving through water instead of air. Their instruments showed readings that made no sense. "Sir," the navigator called out, "our position indicators are going crazy. According to these readings, we're in 7 different places at once. That's impossible." "Sir, with respect, everything about this station is impossible." The docking process was smooth, despite the strange readings. As soon as their ship connected to the station, gravity appeared in their docking bay. Not artificial gravity from spinning sections or gravity generators. Real gravity that pulled in the right direction and felt exactly like being on a planet. Ambassador Taemin walked through the airlock and into the most beautiful garden he had ever seen. He was on a space station, but somehow he was standing in a park filled with trees and flowers and streams of clear water. The sky above him was blue with white clouds, even though there was no atmosphere outside the station. "Welcome, Ambassador Taemin." The voice came from a man sitting on a bench near a small pond. He looked completely ordinary, middle-aged with gray hair and kind eyes. He wore a simple uniform with no badges or decorations. "I am Admiral Dongjin. Thank you for coming." Taemin walked over to the bench, his mind struggling to understand what he was seeing. How is this possible? Please sit." Admiral Dongjin gestured to the space beside him on the bench. "We have much to discuss." Taemin sat down, feeling grass beneath his feet and smelling flowers in the air. "Admiral, I have to ask, how does this garden exist on a space station?" "Space is more flexible than most people realize," Dongjin said, feeding small fish in the pond. "When you understand the rules properly, you can bend them a little." "A little?" Admiral Dongjin smiled. "Perhaps more than a little." As they talked, other representatives from across the galaxy were arriving at the station. Each one experienced the same impossible journey through space that did not behave like space should behave. Director Hyejin arrived on a Confederation security vessel and found herself in what looked like a comfortable office with windows that showed views of mountains and oceans. Dr. Minho came in a science ship and was greeted in a laboratory filled with equipment that seemed to operate on principles he did not recognize. Captain Dayun docked her vessel and found herself in an observation deck that looked out at stars and galaxies that were definitely not visible from their actual location in space. When she asked about this, her human guide, a young woman named Engineer Hai Wan, simply said, "The view is better from here." All of the visitors eventually found themselves in a great hall that existed in the center of the station. It was a huge room with a ceiling that seemed to stretch up forever. Comfortable chairs were arranged in a circle, and each chair was somehow perfect for whoever sat in it, regardless of their species or size. Admiral Dongjin stood in the center of the circle, looking at the gathered representatives. They came from dozens of different worlds and species, but all of them had the same expression on their faces, wonder mixed with fear. "Thank you all for coming," he said, his voice somehow reaching every corner of the room without being loud. "I know this meeting was unexpected. We had hoped to remain in peaceful isolation for longer, but recent events have changed our plans." He gestured, and the air above his head filled with images. They showed Jinwoo's probe entering human space, the destruction of the hegemony fleet, and human ships appearing in systems across the galaxy. "The hegemony of Krell chose to break the old agreements," Admiral Dongjin continued. "This has forced us to reveal ourselves sooner than we intended." Ambassador Taemin found his voice. "Admiral, with respect, what exactly have you been doing for the past 300 years? "Learning," was the simple answer. "Growing. Exploring." "Exploring what?" "Your ships never left your system." Admiral Dongjin smiled. "Who said we were exploring in this dimension?" The images above his head changed to show views of space that looked wrong. Stars in patterns that did not exist. Planets that seemed to be inside out. Ships flying through what looked like solid matter. While the galaxy advanced through normal space, Admiral Dongjin explained, we learned to move through other spaces, parallel dimensions, alternate timelines, quantum possibilities. Dr. Minho leaned forward in his chair. Are you saying you've been exploring other universes? Exploring, colonizing, building. The images showed cities that existed in multiple dimensions at once. We discovered that reality is much bigger than anyone realized. Director Hye-jin felt a chill run down her spine. How big? Infinite, Admiral Dong-jin said simply. For every choice made, for every possibility that becomes real, there are infinite other possibilities that also become real, just in different places. We learned to visit those places. The room fell silent as everyone tried to understand what they were being told. Humans had not just advanced their technology, they had transcended the basic rules of existence itself. Why are you telling us this? Ambassador Taemin asked. Because the isolation is over, Admiral Dongjin said. Jinwoo's probe reminded us that we share this galaxy with other intelligent species. We cannot return to hiding, nor do we wish to. Engineer Hae-won, who had been quietly working with some kind of device during the meeting, looked up from her. Work. Admiral, the probability calculations are complete. Thank you. Admiral Dongjin turned back to the assembled representatives. We have been analyzing the current state of the galaxy. Your civilizations have grown and spread during our absence. This is good. But some empires have become aggressive and expansionist. The images changed to show maps of galactic territories. Red areas marked zones of conflict and war. The hegemony of Krell was one of several young empires that have been taking resources by force, conquering weaker species, destroying entire worlds for their minerals. Captain Daon spoke up. What do you plan to do about it? We plan to offer a choice, Admiral Dongjin said. Every empire in the galaxy can choose to join a new kind of civilization, one based on cooperation instead of conquest, sharing instead of taking. And if they refuse? Admiral Dongjin's expression became sad. Then they will discover that their empires are not as permanent as they believed. To demonstrate his point, he gestured again. The images showed the current location of the hegemony of Krell's home worlds, planets that had been centers of industry and military power. They were empty now, not destroyed, not damaged, just empty, as if no one had ever lived there. The hegemony's people are safe, Admiral Dongjin assured the shocked representatives. They have been relocated to uninhabited worlds where they can build a better civilization, one that does not depend on conquest. You moved entire populations without their consent? Director Hye-jin asked. We moved them to safety before their aggressive expansion brought them into conflict with species that would have destroyed them completely, Admiral Dongjin corrected. Sometimes protection requires firm action. Ambassador Taemin realized what was happening. You're not asking us to join you. You're telling us that the galaxy now has new management. The galaxy will manage itself, Admiral Dongjin said gently. But it will do so according to rules that prevent the strong from destroying the weak. We will ensure that cooperation is more profitable than conquest. And if we refuse these rules, Admiral Dongjin looked sad again. Then you will find that your weapons don't work as well as you thought. Your ships don't go where you want them to go. Your empires become much smaller very quickly. He stood up and walked to the center of the circle. We do not wish to rule anyone. We simply wish to ensure that intelligence and beauty continue to grow in this galaxy, instead of being destroyed. By those who think strength is the only virtue, the meeting continued for hours, but the message was clear. Humanity had returned to the galaxy, and they had brought new rules with them. Rules that would be enforced by beings who could rewrite reality itself. The age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun, whether the galaxy liked it or not.